You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
This week on What Do You Got, we're going to be escaping the I don't know what to do next, Pitfalls. Stay tuned. I was right.
I yawned in the middle.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to What Do You Got? I'm Andy Smith.
I'm Tim Fullen.
What do you got's when we just bring up random topics to each other that the other person really doesn't know about and just bullshit about it for a little bit. So this week's topic is from Tim. So, Tim, what do you got?
It was a lengthy one. Escaping the I don't know what to do pit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mouthful.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm fucking with you. I yawned in the middle of his intro, so.
Yeah, fuck you too.
Sorry.
All right, so you know when you're working on a project and you just get to a point and you just think to yourself, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I should preface this with two things. One, I'm expecting you not to relate as much as other people.
Okay, because I'm dumb?
Yes.
Okay. Just so we're clear.
And two, sometimes when I want to ask you for advice, I'll phrase it in the form of a podcast and I'll put it up there. But by the end of it, I'm normally annoyed by you when you give your advice.
Yeah, it happens.
You just do it anyway. That's what I'm expecting your answer to be, 100%.
No, so give me the scenario, and I'll try to actually give what I would do.
So I don't want to pigeonhole us into my specifics. So I'm going to give a fictitious scenario and like a real scenario of like,
Okay.
say you are a guy. I should have come up with an example.
I am a guy, so far we're good.
So far, so good. All right, say you're... no, that's a terrible example, too. Say you're fixing something in your house. You're fixing plumbing.
Okay.
All right? And you're at a point where you have to do the work. You know you have to do the work. You
Can't call the guy.
You can't call a guy. You don't have anyone in your family or friends who knows what they're doing, so you are it. And you get to a point and you say to yourself, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next. It's
okay. So, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the pigeonhole or the what I'm talking about. And a lot of people when they hit those like railroads are like, I'll sit on it, and then end up sitting on it for like 6 months, and like it becomes an issue.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. So, I think it does depend situationally. You have to assess it that way. Because there's a couple things that could change the game, right? It's number one is time based.
Yeah.
So if you have a deadline for a project at work, or you know your house is going to get flooded if you don't stop this leak, you can't wait on it for 6 months, right? So taking those things out of the equation, which the answer would be you need to improvise. You need to improvise and figure it out like that day.
Yeah.
I would say that if you are stuck, like if you're trying to build something or you're on a project at work, or you have writer's block or something like that.
That's the one I was going to mention, but finish what you're talking about.
So it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do something tangible that you can touch and you have to put together and you don't know how to do it, and you have the instructions in front of you and all this stuff and you just can't do it, I would recommend taking a break, walking away from it, and dumping your brain, because a lot of times you have like a bottleneck where you have like this preconceived thing. It's like when you're looking for your keys, and then you walk outside and come back in, you're like, oh, they're on the table. It's because you changed a scenario and rewired your brain, and you come back in and now you can see them very clearly. So in a situation like that, stepping back would be the right thing. And also too, if you're the type of person that's getting very frustrated, emotionally involved or attached to what's going on, sometimes you need that break to, again, reset your brain.
Yeah, that does help a lot.
Yeah.
With a lot of projects.
Yeah. So with that stuff, you know, you can, especially nowadays, like projects at home or whatever, you have YouTube, which is very easy, and you can kind of get what you need for the most part to do, fix it on YouTube or whatever. But as far as like trying to solve problems or finish a project or like that, it really does depend on the parameters that you're working within on that project. So you basically, I I would say that you would probably have to go through a checklist of about like maybe like 5 different things. Like, what's the time frame I'm working within? You know, do I have all the information I need? Like those type of things where like you can narrow it down to like what your plan of action would be at that point.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense for tangible items, but let me circle back to what my specific one is, just to throw a little wrench in your thing there. I'm specifically, you mentioned writer's blocks, have writer's block. So I've been working on a book literally for 5 years now, and I'm nowhere. I have I think 40 pages done. I have most of the story in my head, but I have the beginning, I have parts of the middle, and I have the end, and I have a general consensus on where I want it to go. And I got to a point in my writing, and just for the record, I don't expect to be like world-class author Tim Fulton. Oh, like people are like gasping.
Well, you're going to be, so.
Yeah, why not? But it's always been a thing of mine. I want to have something published one day. I want to be a published author. It's like on my bucket list. Like it's gonna happen one day.
Okay.
Whether people read it or not, I don't fucking care. I want to be a published author.
Yeah.
I've read some pretty shitty books out there, so I know it's possible.
Oh, I want to make a movie, and I've seen a shitload of shitty movies.
Yeah,
I think I could do better.
There's a lot of bad ones.
Again, I've been wrong a lot in my life.
So I got to a point in my story where I just keep thinking to myself, I don't know what they do next. I don't know what they do next. I genuinely don't know how to get from point A to point B. I don't know what that road in the middle is. And whenever I write, I do this thing where I'll write a lot in one sitting. So I'll write like 10 to 20 pages at a time, or try to. The next time I go to do it, I'll read the last 10 pages that I wrote, just to get myself back in the mindset and the time and like the frame of mind and like the how the story sounds to that point, so you can like kind of follow a trajectory kind of thing. And so right now all I've done for the past however long is reread the past 10 pages, and the more I read it, the more I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this fucking sucks. This is terrible.
So it's first thing with that, it's definitely a good thing that you're saying that, because a lot of people that write
you're just like, because it does suck.
no a lot of people that write do anything when they think that what they have is the best thing of all time, it usually sucks.
Yeah,
because they don't have a critical eye for what they have. Like even people that do amazing stuff, like if you look at the people that are like very successful and you like compliment them on their greatest work, they'll usually have like oh thanks. They won't be like, yeah, that's right, motherfucker. It's like, yeah, I could have done this a little better, and if you noticed, right here, like that really wasn't on par, and I kind of wish this was a little better, because they're looking at it through like the most hypercritical lens, because you have to at least at some level, or
it's like
at some times.
It's the reverse of rose-colored glasses. It's like
yes,
yeah.
But the trick is, I think, with artistic stuff is you can't do it to where it's a cripple. Yeah. You can't do it to where it cripples your creative
to proceed.
Yeah. So you almost have to like, it's like you're trying to like you built like a quarry, mm-hmm. but then you're strip mining it for gold. So like, it's almost like you put all that material there, but most of it's garbage. Yeah. So then you have to like go through it all and pick out the gems.
So, a fun way to relate to you about this, because I know you obviously don't do a lot of writing, but you do a lot of our designs. Yeah. So as you're working on a design, you might be like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And then you take a step back and you're like, eh. Yeah. And so it's kind of like a similar thing, or like you look at something and you're like, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So the way that I, in my, infinite artistic wisdom, when I get into a mode, and this is something I learned that I think might help you with the writing. Okay. So one of these exercises that I had to do when I was in college for writing papers, and this guy was like, this is like the one thing I remember, and it helped me because I remember it. If you're trying to write for whatever reason, Like, and I think it works better for artistic writing, but just writing in general. There's an exercise where you basically just start writing, either by hand or on paper, and it could literally be fuck, 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 fuck. Eventually, you're gonna stop writing fuck, and you're gonna do something else. Another one would be, pick a word, a random word, and start writing about that word. Dog, I take long walks with my dog. Dogs are cool. Dogs lick their ass. Dogs have balls. And what it does is the artistic mind can take something very, very simple and very, not interesting and create this entire thing around it that nobody else sees. That's why they're artistic. So it's more about, I think, connecting those wires in your brain in a certain sequence to get your brain to in that area of motivation of artistic shit.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing too is not being afraid to throw shit out that sucks that you don't like, and also being in the moment when you're doing it. So when I'm like, oh yeah, this looks awesome, it's almost like I'm taking advantage of the mood that I'm in to do this shit. And sometimes it'll be like I'm working on one thing, but I have, in the middle of that, I got motivation to work on a separate project. So I'll just go do that.
Yeah.
But on other times, I have this gut feeling where I'm like, I want to go do that, but I really need to finish this because I'm on a roll here.
That's a really good way of putting it, actually, because selfishly, I'm going to circle back to...
You're the only person that lives your life, so it's the only thing that you have to really reference. Most people is their own experiences.
Fair enough. So the way I generally work is by like the high school essay way, where you outline it and then you fill it out. My outlines are literally what happens chapter to chapter to chapter to chapter, and then I fill it in literally and we'll write out the chapter. So I have not a full outline of how the story's going to go, but I have, again, middle, beginning, end. So maybe I'll start writing, as opposed to like writing fully linearly, which I have been doing up to this point. I'll start writing something further down the line, and that'll maybe help kick the bucket and make me think of what should be.
Yeah, I don't know like all the writing styles or how some people probably start at the end because they know how the book wants to end.
That's kind of how I work a little bit, like not necessarily the end, but like sometimes I'll just imagine like something cool, like something cool happening, like, oh shit, there's a spaceship coming down, and then I think about like, all right, well, how did that spaceship come here? My story isn't sci-fi, but how'd that spaceship get here? What's going on? Who's this? And like then you fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So you go, so there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, that's totally fine. But my point is
but I'm gonna keep going
when it comes to it. You selfish artistic bastard.
I just want to hear myself speak.
The thing with the artistic side of shit, in my opinion, from what I see and the very little I've experienced from like designing stuff or whatever, is that it's very easy to do it when you're motivated to do it.
Yeah.
The hard part is all the other times you're not, which is most of the time. But you can trick your brain into getting motivated. The problem is that from what I see, when somebody that's artistic in a way that speaks to them, photography, writing, drawing, computer graphics design, whatever
it is, yeah.
When they want to create is when they see something that inspires them to make something that they find interesting or cool, right? Artists rarely work in fields that they don't like. They're usually in their medium, right?
Yeah.
The medium that they find interesting. So when you don't have something in front of you that you're excited about or, whatever, you almost have to fictitiously create it or like do work to get to the point where you're inspired. And that's the hard part, at least for me. But I know because I have like decent discipline with certain things, and when I know that it needs to get done, I will basically force myself to do it. Lately that's not been the case, obviously, but what I'm saying is doing the work, and I mean that literally work. It is work to sit there and basically trial and error your way into getting to the creative mode. And sometimes it just happens. Like somebody that's into photography will walk past a scene and be like, oh my God, like I need to photograph this right now. Like, and all they want to do is take pictures. But they could be like walking through the city and maybe they're like an outdoor photographer, like for like the wildlife, and like there's nothing that they find. But then it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to take pictures, 100 pictures in the next 5 minutes. And then they might see something in that 5 minutes where what is this? This is a little interesting. And they get a little closer. And then they see it from a different angle. And then they're like, now they're intrigued. It's the same thing with everything else.
Yeah.
So like when I'm looking for stuff to design, you know, it could just be either like Googling different shit, watching a movie, you know, sitting on there and just drawing shit until all of a sudden it's like, we know what would be cool? Fucking aviators on a dinosaur or whatever the fuck. And that is where it sparks that shit, and then it becomes not work anymore.
It's funny. I was listening to NPR, and they were interviewing an author about one of her books. I forget who it was. I forget what the book was. But she was talking about her process. That sounds so pretentious. But she was talking about...
It does, because art is very personal.
Yeah. But she was talking about the way she was working, and she was like, I thought of this really cool thing. She's like, I wanted to write a story, but it would kind of be read almost as like a series of tweets. She's like, I thought it would be very individual, be very unique, and be this very cool thing. And she's like, and then I got like 100 pages in, and I turned around, and it wasn't. And she was like, and there I had 100 pages of stuff that just didn't make any sense, and it was fucking terrible. She's like, so I trashed it. She goes, so then she's like, I wanted to keep that uniqueness. So she was like, I flipped it a little bit, and she was like, my main character was a character who was going to therapy all the time, and she's like, so instead I wrote the story as a series of therapist notes, the notes that the therapist was taking about their encounter. So it would be somewhat story-like, but it would be notes. She's like, same thing, I thought it'd be cool, this, that, the other thing. She's like, then I turn around 100 pages later, and it wasn't. It was terrible. But she goes, but then I realized what was missing. And she went on and on and on. But same thing. So she found two cool things that she liked, grinded it out, realized they were terrible, but at least that became like the foundation for something that she thought.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you think that you have a car.
Yeah.
But all you ended up with was the lug nuts. But it's a pretty important part of the car.
Yeah.
And you couldn't make the car drive without the lug nuts. So, like, those tweet aspects or the therapy notes aspect of the book she eventually ends up writing or might write one day might be what holds those wheels on the car.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of grinding, sitting there, doing it, allowing yourself to go on the ride kind of thing. And again, this is a very amateur person talking here, so don't take what I'm saying at all as advice. But I think with writing, it ends up being like you just have to write. Like you have to always be writing. Yeah. It is not one of those things that you can get better at by only doing it when you're inspired.
Yeah, 100%.
It really is. The people that are usually the best at stuff are the people that are passionate about it. There's people that are very, very good at certain things that they don't like.
Yeah.
And they're rarely ever the best at it. You know, like people that play sports that fall out of love with the sport, all of a sudden, like they start doing shitty. And yeah, partly because they're older and not as, you know, youthful with their skills or their athleticism, but also because like the drive to want to be there isn't there anymore. So when you have somebody who still has the drive to want to do it all the time, like skateboarders, like, you know, they just want to skateboard all the time.
Yeah.
So they skateboard all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard to get as good as somebody that skateboards all the time when you're not at work.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way that it is.
You're right.
And if you wrote 100 pages when you, you know, a week when you got home, but you only are inspired once every 3 weeks, so it's 200 pages every 6 weeks, as opposed to somebody who writes, you know, 10 pages a day. It could be shit, but just 10 pages a day. After 2 months, you know, they have hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
And it's about the repetitions of getting words on paper. It's the 10,000 hours thing. kind of like related to that.
Yeah, it's the mastery of this. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And the other thing about that writing thing, like the
Physically writing?
the physically writing or like typing on a computer, we had to do it because this is before like everyone had a laptop, so we were like writing it out. But what it was that we took the exercise and for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, we just wrote stuff because we had to think of a short story or whatever. And I remember a lot of people couldn't think of what to write about. Like, it's like you have to write a short story that's 20 pages long or whatever it was. So you're writing, but you couldn't think of what you want to write about. So as you're writing, just randomly, you're like, dog, fuck, went to the movies, whatever. Out of that 10 minutes or 20 minutes of writing, I had like 2 pages. And there was one sentence in there that ended up being what the short story that I wrote about was.
Yep. And
I wouldn't have thought of that if I didn't do that exercise because it was a very like daydreaming kind of like memory type of thing that like I hadn't thought about in years. And I wouldn't have thought about it unless I actually just sat there and just had to be forced to do something I didn't want to do. So
I have to do shit I don't want to do.
That's the fuck of it. That's the part that makes it different. And I'll quote, going back to me being dumb and only living in my own world, I'm going to quote Mike Tyson. I believe it's Mike Tyson who said it. I don't know if he originally said it, but he said the difference between an average fighter and a champion is that a champion does things that he doesn't want to do, but he does them like he loves them.
The great philosopher of our time.
Yeah, like waking up that is somebody's waking up at 5 a.m. and going for a run when all they hate is running.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And it sucks to hear that because it's the worst like balloon pop.
Just do it anyway.
Yeah. And there's 1,000 things that are, shitty about it, can go wrong, fearful, whatever, and it does suck. But it's one of those like, do you want to do it or do you not want to do it?
Clearly.
Yeah. And writing is one of those weird ones where like nothing can stop you. And this is me being motivational, trying to fucking shove it down your throat. No, there's literally no excuse in your free time that you can't write. You need a pen and parchment.
Yeah.
Or a computer.
I like to write freehand first. The good thing about doing that is that you have to reread it when you transcribe it back onto a computer, and it forces you. Granted, if you are someone who writes stories and you end up making a book or something along those lines, you end up doing 1,000 edits anyway.
Yeah.
But at least once, like while it's still live and fresh in your mind,
it's a forced revision.
It's a forced revision. And there's something different about reading handwriting than reading
text on a computer.
Yeah, there's just something different about it. So it really forces you to take a step back and be like, oh, okay.
But
like,
think about it, though. Half hour a day. You just set a timer and write for a half hour a day.
Leave me alone.
No. I'm not gonna, because you told me that your bucket list thing is to publish a book.
It is.
You fucked up by telling me that.
And I'm about a fifth of the way of where I should be, and it took me 5 years. I can't take another 25
Okay,
years.
let me ask you a question.
Shoot.
In 5 years, honestly and realistically, how many hours have you written on this book? Honestly,
probably like 20 to 30.
20 to 30 hours.
Stop yelling at me.
No. This is going to be a good fucking eye opener for you.
Yeah.
Because you say 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? You say 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you wrote 10 minutes a day, every 2 months you have an hour.
Yep.
That's 12 hours a year. Or that's 6 hours a year.
That's true.
For 10 minutes a day. Right? So after 5 years, you have 35 hours.
True.
So you wrote 10 minutes a day.
Do you know what my problem is? This isn't just with this, it's with a lot of things. I'm a self-defeated person.
Yeah,
I get into that mindset way too easily. So the reason why I'll get into like waves of you can do it, you can't do it. So like I'll start writing, reread it, be like, There's no way.
This is where I'm going to stop you right there. It's not a self-defeating thing. Your issue's not self-defeating. It is, but it isn't. The issue is the discipline of sitting down and writing. The good thing about discipline is it doesn't require batteries, right? Like the batteries don't run out on discipline once you have it.
Fair.
That's what discipline is. You do it regardless.
That's fair. That
So
makes sense.
when you have the discipline to write 30 minutes a day before you go to bed or whenever you choose to want to write, you make up your own world. But when you do that, it doesn't matter if you think that you can or you think that you can't. When you decided to do that, the discipline says it doesn't matter what the end result is. I'm choosing to write now in this moment for a half hour.
Fair.
Whether that means I end up publishing something or not, it's not about that. It's about me writing a half hour a day, and that is the discipline. And if you increase that to 30 minutes a day, it's 15 hours a month. 15 hours a month, dude.
Yeah.
That's 165 hours a year.
It is. That's a plethora of hours.
So 165 hours a year, that's what? over 5 times the amount of time that you've written in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that right time is just rehashing what I've already done.
If you did that for 5 years, you'd have 25 times the amount of hours.
I'd be done.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you think about it from putting in the work, perspective, that's what's missing there.
It is. It is.
That's what's missing. And you might be in the same spot that you are now, like, page-wise, but I guarantee you, if you had that 125 hours in a year, that 25 pages would be in way better shape than the 25 pages you have now. 40 pages. So you're talking about the difference of, like, I just have a rock that kind of looks like a knife in the shape of it versus, like, a cast iron fucking, now we're talking, like, later in the fucking era. Like, we're not at the space age yet, but we're getting into steel.
Okay.
Yeah.
An hour a day, no matter what.
No, half hour.
Half hour a day.
Just a half hour.
No matter what.
You have to. Here's the thing. This is the thing with the defeatist attitude people, and I'm going to classify you as a defeatist attitude people because you self-classified as that, and I don't want to misidentify you. So the problem with them, and I'm one of them at times.
I'm triggered.
The problem with them is what you do. What I've done 1,000 times is you have this thing in your head that you want to do. Subconsciously, it's a lot of work that you don't really want to do. Like, you want to do it. You want to do it.
Yes.
But it's not about wanting to do it. It's about doing it. And you're never going to want to do it all the time. So you have to get the discipline for it. So what you do is you set an unrealistic goal that cannot be attained, so that when you don't do it, you say, see that? I'm a failure. I didn't do an hour today. I only did 15 minutes. I can't do this. I'm a failure. I'm suck at everything. That's what you do. See, I said a half hour, and you immediately upped it to an hour. You immediately upped it to an hour. And in my head, I know that that's unrealistic to do 7 days a week when you've not done that at all yet. So you start off with a half hour because it's very difficult to talk yourself out of a half hour a day on something that is a passion of yours.
True.
Yeah. No, I know the mind because it's been my mind so many times.
You're 100% right, and this is exactly why I brought it up. This is how we get out of the I don't know what to do next rabbit hole. You need someone to fucking yell at you.
And the thing, someone yell at you.
So this got a lot more existential. Well, no, I guess I wanted this to be existential.
But what's really fucked up is that this is not going to be news to people. A lot of people are going to, like, listen to this, or if they listen to it, they're going to be like, I've thought of that before. Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
The problem is the discipline aspect. The freedom that discipline will give you to where, like people that can't, go to the gym, or they can't, mow their lawn, or they can't do whatever. A lot of what they get hung up on is like, I'm going to do it in 5 minutes, or like, oh, I got to do this when I get home. Do I have time? Do I not have time? When you have the discipline aspect, it's like going to work. I don't have an option. I have to go. So me worrying about when, what, that doesn't matter. It's going to get done because I have the discipline to do it.
So a lot of what you're saying is 100% accurate. And part of the problem is the self-awareness that like you forget these lessons that you're talking about. But also what I noticed with myself, and one of the reasons why I like talking to other people about these sort of issues is because you get reminded of the basics. You get reminded of the discipline, 30 minutes a day, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, and not just writing, this goes for a lot of things, you pigeonhole yourself on what you're supposed to be doing. So this entire time, I've been thinking to myself, what I need is XYZ. And the only way I can proceed is with XYZ. And I don't know how to get XYZ. And in this situation, I was thinking, I need someone else who writes passionately to review my work and to give me a critique and to like set me on a straight path. When that isn't really necessarily what I need to do. There are 100 things I could be doing. We've just discussed a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
And that can go with a lot of projects for other people, whether or not it's a material project, putting something together, or if it's more artistic project like art.
Yeah. See, you brought up some good talking points.
I know.
One of which is
I know.
You might need that at some point.
Yeah.
But that's another excuse. And that's an excuse that I don't think you thought you were making for yourself.
It's something I thought I needed.
Yes. But here's the problem. You come up with, I need somebody to review my thing who's a professional writer. Now, that might be necessary at some point or now, who could give you really good points. But what the fuck does that have to do with what you're doing every night, half hour a day? It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with sharpening that blade.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that people think
I tricked myself into thinking
that's the aha. That's what I need.
Yes.
It's not that I don't write all the time. It can't possibly be that. It's this. This is why.
And we all get into those mindsets of I need this thing to be able to continue or to proceed with life or do this thing when it's a trick. It's a trick in your head. It's not an excuse in the way other excuses work, where people are like, "Oh, I'm overweight because my knee acts up sometimes, so I'm gonna eat cookies."
This is the debacle or the position that human beings are in, right? We're animals, right? Almost every single animal, when given the opportunity, seeks comfort, right? If you leave a fire going and the coals are going down in the wintertime, I guarantee you during the night, a couple animals are going to walk near that fire and steal some warmth from it because it's comfortable, right? The problem is that when that fire is continuous, the animals forget how to live not near the fire.
Yeah. And
comfort is so readily available for human beings that it is basically your duty to make yourself uncomfortable so that you can deal with being uncomfortable and it not being a factor. So what you're doing is you're getting to the point where it becomes work, and then your body is seeking comfort because it's hard. So you're like I need this but your brain is not dumb. It knows what it's doing. It's seeking comfort because it doesn't want to do the work.
Yeah. It's
very easy to just get the food when you don't have to hunt it, right? But you need to know how to hunt. You need to know how to hunt for that book. The other thing that I was going to mention was the seeking comfort, and the second thing was so many people rest all of their thoughts, and this is something that everybody's guilty of. I'm guilty of it. I've been guilty of everything I've said, by the way. Still guilty of it to this day at times. But the second thing is, for people that have the defeatist thing, fucking up a day, 2 days, whatever, that is not an excuse that relieves you of your obligation to your discipline. A lot of people are like, oh, I need to do 7 days, the next 7 days, I'm going to, do this every day. And then day 4, they don't do it. Something came up at work or whatever, and they sit on it. And they're like, oh, I fucked up. I don't do 7 days. There's no point in doing the next 3 because I already fucked up. I'll start on Monday. Everything starts Monday, like you always say.
It all starts Monday.
But where the sweet spot is for both rewards and for failures is not to dote on them. I did really good. I finished a project. Okay, give yourself a pat on the back, but don't sit there. Don't relish. You have a fuck up. Oh, I fucked up. Take the lesson from it. Let it go. Start again in 5 minutes or the next day. Do not allow that fuck up to then fuck up everything else. It's a common thing with people where they're trying to get the ball rolling, where they have a little hiccup, and in their head, this master plan that they've put it together is already because they didn't see that they were going to fuck up that one day. So that's not part of the plan. So now this plan is fucked. It doesn't work anymore. That's bullshit. It's only fucked because you're allowing it to be fucked. Sometimes shit comes up. Yeah. Okay, it sucked for that day. Let it go. Tomorrow's the next day. Doesn't relieve you of your obligation.
And one more point I'm going to add in there, and I think that we're going to... Holy shit, we've been talking for 35 minutes.
I talk a lot about shit that I'm not good at.
Yeah. One more point, and then we're going to wrap up here. Another thing that has to do with the defeatist attitude is not just there's a fuck up, now I can't. A lot of times... And I already know the answer to this, so I'm going to put in the answer too. But a lot of times in my head, I will say, and I'm sure other people say this to themselves too, it's not possible because I'm not going to be able to do it. But that doesn't negate you from trying. And I think a lot of the times, so writing has always been something I've been passionate about. I've written stories when I was a kid. They were never great. I've written poems. They've never been great. Again, but I want to be the published author. So a lot of times when I was younger, I would write a lot of times just because I found it fun and cool and blah, 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 blah. And I've had this end game in my head for so long now that I want a published book. And I want it to be this one. And I want to get there. That whenever I reread my own work, I'm just sitting there like, it's not going to do it. This isn't going to work. So I don't see myself finishing. So I don't allow myself to continue, which is wrong. I need to stop thinking about the end game and think more of myself in the moment.
I think you're exactly right there. I think what you need to do is loosen your grasp on that end goal.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Say you get there, say like you finished the book in a month, right? And you had just somebody come and review it, but you weren't happy with it.
Yeah.
Yet, because you knew it needed to be reviewed. And the person says it's ready to be published. I got a buyer. They're gonna give you $5,000 for the book.
Okay.
Would you feel good about yourself if you weren't happy with the book?
I don't know.
It'd be a mix, right?
It would be mixed emotions because you would feel like, I accomplished my end game, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah. This isn't like, hey, listen, I did the final draft. There's things I think I could do better, but I like the product I have. Versus like, I don't like this at all, and this is a reflection of me, but someone's going to give me money for it, so I'm going to sell it. It
would be like a 35-year-old George Martin watching season 8 of Game of Thrones and just being like, oh.
Yeah.
But it made it to TV.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think the goal shouldn't be, or at least the goal you're focusing on when you're writing or whatever, shouldn't just be, I want to get a book published. Just say, I want something that I'm going to be proud of published. I want something that I enjoyed, at least that...
I'm taking it even a step further. I want to start having my viewpoint be, I want to enjoy the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be it.
What I'm saying is get away from that giant mountain of a grand vision.
Yeah.
And you have to ride the waves as you go there.
Yeah.
Now, I've never written a book, so I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like you can be so focused on the end that there's some obvious red flags of things that you're doing or not doing that aren't poking out you because you're not focused on what you're doing. You're focused on the end goal.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, like you know what your end goal is. You're not going to forget about that, right? It's not going to slip your mind.
No.
But little things that are in front of you might if you're not focused on them.
That's a good point. It's a good point, Andrew.
Thank you, Timothy.
Okay. All right, guys. Let us know in the comment section down below what kind of stuck you are in or have been in the past. Let us know what you have done to get out of them or what you should be doing to get out of them or what other people should be doing. It could be something that relates directly to what we've been talking about today or it could be something else completely or vague or whatever. I don't give a shit. I don't even fucking care about you. I'm just kidding. That was really aggressive.
This is what happens. He's going down the path of self-destruction. He's alienating himself, putting himself in a hole.
I'm never gonna make it.
Drugs. Do drugs.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
I gotta pee.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh